Good afternoon, everyone. This is Christian with PerfectStockAlert.com, a 100% free service for smart investors and traders. All we ask in return, please refer a friend. Today is Saturday, September the 22nd, 2012. This video should have been out yesterday, but as I posted on the website, I had something to do, couldn't get it done on Friday, so we're doing it today. That's why we're late, if you're wondering. We're going to be looking at all the major markets that we track at PerfectStockAlert.com so that you will know everything I know moving into the week ahead. We're going to start off looking at Australia's markets, the AORD. In this particular trade here, we are long. You can see that our last entry opportunity was here. We have a stop set right here. This little black line right there is where our stop's at currently. This blue line indicates our last stop from this trade, and we have already been stopped out of that, so we've locked in gain there. Right now, we are on the positive side here on this actual trade, but what you're going to see in almost every market we look at today is going to be this little pattern that we've seen. We got the overall trend of all the markets that we're showing you are going to be clearly defined as up. Higher series of highs, higher series of lows. That means it's going to affect the way you trade any market. So just keep that in mind. But you're going to see that continuing throughout any market we look at. Also, you'll notice here that we've advanced to the previous high, and then on this particular case, you'll see that this formation here is really just a consolidation pattern right here, and it's upon the previous resistance is now acting as support, and that's why those two lines line up. You go up here and you advance, you pull back, you advance, you hit some resistance, some sell pressure, you sell off, you come up here again, you break through it, and now that resistance is acting as support. So all we're really doing is just kind of moving sideways right here. We'll see a lot of this, and it's important to note whenever you're moving sideways, you can break up or down. The only reason that I'm looking at this saying expect it to break to the upside is because the overall trend is up. The overall trend is going to affect the way you think as an investor or as a trader all the time. You're constantly looking at it saying, okay, if the trend is down, then I would bet on that consolidation period to break to the downside. If the trend is up, like it is here, then we expect it to break to the upside. That's what the thinking is, okay? Looking now at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, this one's a little bit different, but same overall strategy here. You have a nice uptrend going on for a while. Comes up here, hit resistance and pulls back, advances again, breaking out of previous resistance, now acting as support. You start to move along that sideways on that support area. You advance again, and then what do? We do this little thing all over again. Basically, just make it another little basic support area here, and you're getting mixed signals. If you're looking at these candlesticks individually, you're getting shooting star signal, you're getting hammer candlestick, shooting star, hammer candlestick, shooting star. If you're trying to guess which way this market's going to do based on looking at the candlestick formation, you're going to be having a hard time. Again, what you want to do is say when she's in the channel, she can break up or down. It means that she can continue to go higher or she can break to the downside, and the only way I'm going to bet is on the favor of the overall trend. The overall trend is clearly up, so I would bet on the overall trend continuing, and it's going to be the main strength behind this market, and so that's going to actually end up breaking to the upside. So with that in mind, we are long this spectral position already, and you'll notice that we have got this position here where we entered at, and then we are also still long from this point here. We've advanced the stop along the way to here. Alright, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to take this stop loss limit and I'm going to advance it to here. I'm going to eliminate any risk in this trade that I have here and try to lock in that much more gain. You may not want to do that. You may say, you know what, that's too risky. I don't want to get stopped out of this position, and that's fine for you if that's what you want to do. Personally, I'm going to go ahead and lock that in. It's been a couple of weeks now. We've had those gains on the table from this move back here, and I think it's smart just to lock in some profit. Looking now at the French CAC 40 index, we've been stopped out of this trade to the upside, but again, this is one of those charts that I'm really not a huge fan of when looking at Europe opportunities. This is one that I would pass on, but I could see somebody else looking at it saying this is a hammer candlestick formation. We're on a consolidation period. Previous resistance was here. This resistance is now becoming support, and they're buying here. I can understand somebody doing that. I'm going to pass on this one. Like I said, we were in back here. We started some nice moves to the upside here, but it was really weak, and we didn't like it. We talked about it when it was going on, so we advanced the stop to the low of this candlestick here. We got stopped the next day. Basically a wash for us, a little tiny gain, but nothing worth writing home about. And now she's just setting up again. I'm really not interested. I want to go play this somewhere else. Looking now at the Milan index, if you want to look at Italy, you can see the MIB here. You can same overall channel, series of higher highs, higher lows, little consolidation period right here. Breakout on this point here. We talked about it as a buying opportunity, a nice advance to the upside. We advanced to stop. We were stopped out, but you'll notice high point here. Following day, lower high, also lower low from one candlestick to the next. This just continues, this pattern continues all the way down until the last trading day when we broke out of that. You can see a reversal here. You also notice your ultimate oscillator is pulled back down to the 40 line at that point. This is where you typically find oversold situations. When you're in a major uptrend, you can often find them here as well off the 50 line. But right now, we're getting more consolidation than I actually expected here, and a pretty good pullback as well. So this is a better opportunity than the French market just showed you. You'll notice also this support area is coming into play where this previous resistance area was. So that's now acting as support there, and so that's why you start to get that kind of reversal situation, start to get some reversal signals there. That makes sense to me. If you want to be a trader on that to buy to the upside, I could see you doing that. I may actually mark the chart, something I wouldn't do, but there's one more that I'm actually more interested in than this one. So if you're looking to go buy out there, I understand that, and I can understand why you'd be trading this on the long side, of course. So it's just something to keep an eye on. If you're looking to trade in the Milan market, this one it would make a lot of sense to me. Looking now at the German DAX composite, this one I've simply advanced the stop on, locking in more of a gain. We did have our stop here at this low point. Now I've advanced it to here, 1 cent below the previous candlestick formation. There's a low point, and we continue to move to the upside. I'll keep advancing the stop until I'm eventually stopped out here. I don't have a problem with this. There's many different things this could actually do, but the main thing I want to draw your attention to here is nice advance here. Then you get a little pullback, and then you move around sideways for a bit, and you start to move higher. You're going to start to see this on a couple of charts as well. This can be indicative of telling you that this is the start of, you're starting to see the beginning of the advance off of this consolidation support area that we're seeing on all these different charts. So if you start to see a couple of charts start to break off the line and move forward, that can be an early warning sign that you're about to shift into moving to the upside again, which means that next week in the US or something like that, you could actually start to see major markets start to advance even higher. Gold is in an obvious uptrend. You see the clearly defined resistance points here, here, here. You broke out of that. And here's something you need to keep in mind. Whenever you're looking at these charts and you're seeing really bullish chart formations, breakout of major support areas, pull back down to test them, find support again, advance again. These are extremely strong chart patterns. You shouldn't be betting against these in any way, shape, or form. In fact, you should be working with those. They're strong for a reason. They got a lot of buy pressure behind them here. So whenever you get this advance here, then we start to consolidate again. Same thing I've been talking to you guys before. I'm going to bet in favor of the overall trend, which is clearly up. We got a buy signal, took that position there. We have a stop right now set right here, and we have not been stopped out, and we are now starting to test and beat the previous high here. Again, this is another indication you're starting to see a break off from that support or from that consolidation period, start to break to the upside here. That's an important piece of the puzzle there. Okay, you'll notice that over here you hit a low, then you advance, you pull back down, you get a higher low, and now you advance today, and you're testing this previous high here, and you're beating it. So again, that's starting to show that shift to the upside. If you're wondering, well, which direction she's going to break, well, you're already starting to get signs that she's breaking to the upside. And again, this is just an indication of obviously gold chart, but it's also telling you which direction these markets are going to be breaking. Okay, so when you see it happen in a couple of charts, you can expect it's going to happen to all of the charts. Just like you could look at this chart before and said, hey, we broke out of gold. I think now we're seeing precious metals move to the upside. It's probably likely that we're going to start to see your major markets out there, European and U.S. markets, can start to break to the upside. The same thing starts to come into play, because at first it's 1 or 2 charts, and then it's 3 or 4, and then you know how it works. Okay, so that's just something to keep in your back of your mind, that next week you can probably start to see advance. Looking at the Hong Kong Hang Seng Index, I'd leave this one alone for a while. Right now you've got a massive move to the upside. It can get bigger, but your consolidation right here is really kind of wide and sloppy, so I'm not going to mess with it. It's too early for me to start looking for this to say, well, it's going to break to the upside. There's just not enough consolidation here for me to get involved at this level. We've already had a major move to the upside here. If we were to consolidate for another week or two, or maybe at least another week, and tighten up here, something that I could actually see a little bit more clearly, then I would be more interested in that. Right now I'm concerned that you might be just doing this and then this, so I don't want to get involved at this level. So right now, if you're doing this number and I buy and then it does this, I'm going to be kind of pissed. So instead, I think I would just wait and watch and see what happens. If you continue to consolidate, moving sideways, that's fine, and I'll look at it again. If she pulls back, then obviously I'd be looking for an entry opportunity, because this previous resistance is now going to be acting as support. The India Bombay Stock Exchange, nice chart, real nice, clearly defined bullish uptrend here. Nice pullback here. You get the shift to buy signal here, and you get a nice play to the upside. We've played it all the way up to this point here. We were eventually stopped out, so we had this move to here, and then we had a little jerk to the downside here, and now we were taking off to the races again. Again, notice high point here, superseding the previous high. You are breaking to the upside here. I didn't get back in on this one, didn't get a good quality buy signal for myself, so I didn't mess with this one. If you did, fine, keep your stop. Keep trailing your stop higher as she goes. Looking now at the Japan iShares of the EWJ, this one's basically the same overall pretty chart formation. You got this low point here, high point here, a higher low here, higher high here. We obviously expect the trend to continue, which would be a series of higher highs here and here, series of higher lows here and here. We're looking for this as a reversal move to the upside. You also notice previous resistance is going to be acting as what? Support. So again, finding a hammer candlestick formation here, a move to the upside the following day. I'd be a buyer at this point immediately, 935, even lower if at all possible. With a stop sell for this low point here, the 929 level. Keep a tight stop right there, 1 cent below, maybe 928, and then look for this test. Actually, this high over here probably break out. So all I'm saying is this is being the first leg to the upside. Then we've got this little move to the downside, and now we're looking for the second leg to the upside, which should be about the same size as the first. It's a big move I'm looking at here, and lots of things can happen between there, but just something to look at. There is a lot of potential in that particular trade there. You will notice that last week we actually marked it about 3 days ago. The black arrow indicating that I would buy if the following day was higher than this candlestick's high. The following day was not, and therefore we simply don't mess with it. We leave it alone. And then we get what we're looking for. Hammer candlestick formation, higher high than the previous day. That's the buy signal. Looking now at the London Financial Times Index, this one I still want to get involved in this. If you're not, if you're looking for an opportunity to do so, we have already talked about this way back here, and our stop is right here, and we continue to hold this position. You'll notice again, previous resistance is going to now act as support. So you run up here, you hit resistance, and then you pull back, then you advance to that point, you break out, and now you're pulling back to previous resistance. So this resistance is now acting as support. So we're talking about with that little blue dotted line I just showed you there a moment ago. There it is. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at. And you also notice again that consolidation period that we talked about in certain other charts. Some of them were sideways, some of them were sloping down, different things. This one, again, same basic overall story, doing this little number here, and at the same time you've got this little number here. So I'm looking at this as just being a basic little pennant formation here. It's about to break, I think, to the upside. And so this is something I'd be watching really seriously next week. You break out of that line and you're going to start to see it move to the upside really fast. And you almost saw it on Friday. You actually were looking for it, but it didn't actually form all the way. So we're just keep an eye on it. Early next week I expect to see some kind of activity here on the FTSE, then probably be a break to the upside. A quick look at the NASDAQ. We have been talking about this one for a while. Back here we had this little consolidation period going on before the Fed announcement. Once that broke out, we told you once you had a breakout there, you could be a buyer there. We also told you when that happened that sometimes you can actually get a pullback to test previous resistance to see if it's acting as support. That's exactly what happened in this case. Beautiful opportunity, we told you in this entire time to be a buyer here. Then you get a nice another buy signal here. We told you can keep a buyer there. She's advanced now and then pulled over here and consolidates, moving sideways. And of course, we also told you if the following day after this day, on basically Friday, was higher than Thursday, you could be a buyer there. So then on Friday, you could have been buying here. We've basically had our stop that was started over here, then we've advanced it to here. Now we're advancing it to here. Let me clean that up so you can really get a good look at that. That blue line right there, which I'll make black right here. That's where our stop's at right now. We've simply advanced the stop, locking in gains on all kinds of positions across the board. Basically, that's important to us right now. We believe we'll break to the upside, but always want to advance the stop just in case we do get a break to the downside. We've locked in our gain. We can look for an entry opportunity if we do get a nice pullback. But right now, we're just seeing this continuing to advance. But just to make sure, let's advance the stops. We are long the XOI, basically the oil index here. We've talked about this a couple times. Back during this time period here on this last red candlestick formation there, we told you start looking for a bottom to happen because you're getting close to previous resistance going to start acting as support. You also had other indications like this previous point here where you advance, consolidate, and advance. That's going to also be acting as support. And these are the items that you start looking for when you start looking at where is our next support going to be and my next candlestick formation going to be there like. And that'll be this one right followed the next day. Hammer candlestick, we told you if the next day gave you a higher high than this candlestick formation, you could buy. that you got, as well as a higher low. So you should be in this with a tight stop set there, and that's what we've done. We're just basically back in on the oil trade here. You'll notice in this case here, we got long here when you broke out of this previous little channel here, this little consolidation. It was consolidating the downward slope there, but it was still just consolidation there. Notice this one here. All you're doing is consolidating, and then you're breaking to the upside. This is another chart indicating the direction of the break of the consolidation you can see in these markets. So whenever you look at that, it's going, what's going to break? Is it going to break the upside, the downside? Look at the leading indicators. You start seeing those other markets move in that particular direction. Well, they start doing that, everything's going to start doing that. So that's important to note. We are clearly getting a breakout to the upside signals here. Looking now at the UUP, or the U.S. Bullish Dollar Index Fund, and this one, of course, you would expect to trade inverse to the U.S. markets here. So, for example, if the markets were being sold off substantially, people would be selling stock and, in effect, buying dollars. That would put a floor in the price of the dollar and drive the price of the dollar higher, right? If you've got the Fed coming out doing the quantitative easing, he's going to manipulate the basically currency and then cause the stock prices to go higher, then the dollar is going to go lower, right? So you should see an inverse trend there. When you look at this here, you can see we have a clearly defined downtrend, which makes perfect sense because we have a clearly defined uptrend in the major U.S. markets, right? Okay. And now you've got this consolidation period right here, moving to the upside. We talked about this last week. Told you I wouldn't be a buyer there, but you could look for a move to trade it on the short side. You can do that now, as a matter of fact, with the stop set right here. I haven't marked it because the candlestick formations aren't perfect, so what would end up happening here is really easy to see happen. You could, if you get short here and it's not perfect, then you end up getting stopped out and she goes lower anyway. That's why I'm not trading this. It's not a perfect formation for me. But I wanted to draw your attention here to this consolidation period that you have going on right here. Which direction is it breaking? You can see it's breaking to the downside, which makes perfect sense and confirms you're breaking gold to the upside. Confirms you're breaking some of the major market averages you're seeing to the upside, as well as gold and silver and so forth and so on. Okay. The Russell 2000 Small Cap Index, nice break to the upside today from that little trend we're talking about. You got this move right here, and then you can clearly see the break was clearly to the upside here, and I would have been a buyer on that situation. Some people would have looked at it and said, you know what, the gap was too much for me. I'm not going to do that. Maybe you bought it at the end of the day. Maybe you're going to look for an opportunity on Monday or something of that nature. That's fine. For me, the gap wasn't that big a deal because I was willing to get long at this point here. Okay, so that's important to note whenever simply gapping back to a point that I was willing to get long before. It's not just because a gap happens doesn't necessarily mean it's gapped into an unrealistic situation or unrealistic price level. This is the first leg. I'm expecting this consolidation to be then met by a second leg to the upside of equal size of this one. So yeah, I want to get involved. Let me clean that chart up. All right. One thing I do want to do. Okay, as you can see, I've just advanced the stop on the old trade of the Russell all the way up to this low point right here. That was from this previous trade here. It was sitting right here, and I've just advanced it a little bit further, tighten up the stop. That's important to me at this particular point in time, as we are clearly seeing a break to the upside. The only way that is going to change at this point is to break down, and then we get into a lot more different types of problems. We start looking at the chart is not as strong as we thought it was, so forth and so on. So that's where I want to be stopped out if it was going to stop me out, but I don't think it will. I think you can see a little bit more consolidation and then break, continue to move to the upside. You could see it happen. When I say consolidation, you could see intraday consolidation on Monday. You could also see some other charts out there that haven't yet broken to the upside, continue to move sideways. But in this case right here, you can see we have already broken to the upside and stayed above that trend line that I'm drawing right here. This little basically little trend line right here. We are closed above that point. That's an important piece of the puzzle as well. It shows there's still strength there. And then also here, you can see you just kind of drew out this little channel here. That's all you're seeing is this little channel formation that we've seen on other situations. Again, and again, breaking to the upside. Here we kind of saw it as well. A little bit wider, but you had a little formation going on right here. Just kind of moving sideways after we had cooled back down and formed this little cup situation here. And then came up and formed that handle formation we talked about as well back then, okay? Looking at the SPX, or the S&P 500 Large Cap Index, we advanced the stop on this one as well. Stop was here from this previous trade here. We've simply taken that stop loss limit and advanced it to this point here, which is our last point that we indicated you could be a buyer, which would have been on Friday. You would have been buying there. You'll also notice you got a higher high than the previous candlestick formation and a higher low. Possible reversal here happening as well, but we haven't actually broken off the little support area here, the consolidation period here. So this is one chart that's kind of lagging. So it's something that we will watch it next week. If we start to advance here, I will of course start to be more vigilant with my stop and advancing it that much faster. Looking now at silver, we've been trading gold on this one, even though we've seen an advance on both gold and silver chart. We told you could trade the silver chart. We didn't actually ever take the opportunity to trade the silver chart. This time, however, I will. We've got nice candlestick formation here, nice advance. First off, we got this basic little breakout formation here, a nice bullish wedge, advance to the upside, consolidation, advance again, consolidation, advance, and then more consolidation here. But now you'll notice we've got this little hammer candlestick formation, and the following day gives a higher high and a higher low. So yes, I'd be a buyer there with a stop set right here. A really tight stop, which is basically at the bottom of this little sideways channel that we're seeing here. And again, if I'm seeing other individual market averages and such as gold, I think it was gold, and oil breaking to the upside, then I would start expecting to see silver do the same thing. We've already tested with the high of the day. We just didn't close there. So again, I expect this to break to the upside here, and I want to be involved in that. The Toronto Stock Exchange. Basically, we're just consolidation here. That's all we're saying. And I'm not long this one. We try to get long at this point here. We've already been stopped out of this previous trade here at this particular point. So we try to get back in. At that point, we got a little tiny of a signal. What we told you at that time, it was difficult because the consolidation formation is really tight. Candlestick formation makes it easy to get stopped out. And we were stopped out the very next day, so it's not like you could actually do much with this. At this time, I don't see anything that I want to mess with here. Just continue to watch it, but it may tighten up, it may get prettier, it may pull back a little bit deeper or something. But right now I just expect it to move sideways, and if it starts to advance without me, if I don't get a better, clearer entry signal, I wouldn't take it. I just let it go without me. Last but not least will be the VIX, the volatility index. It runs the inverse of the S&P 500, and basically it should be telling you the same thing, just flip the idea upside down. So what we're seeing here is actually no fear of the markets basically tanking, because no one's buying up the options for that. So you can see that we've pulled back down here to points that we really are basically fearless before. And again, we're there again. However, there's something that I want to draw your attention to here. Basically, what you're seeing here is this little move to the downside here, this nice little leg here, and then consolidation. So whenever you're looking at that, and I can do different ways you could draw that, but basically when you see a break of the major markets to the upside, you'll see this guy break to the downside, and vice versa. If all of a sudden you were to find out, oh man, something came out, some news happened or something that we didn't know about, and when the U.S. market started breaking the other direction, you'll see the VIX break in the positive direction. So they run the inverse of one another. You can watch them. Right now, it's really not very clear what you can do with this. I would leave it alone for now. I wouldn't try to trade it. Last time we tried to trade, the VIX was here. It made a lot more sense, but even then, we talked about I would set my stop off of this high, because trying to set it off of this little candlestick situation here, you could get the next day or something, could really just jump up, kick you out of your stop, and then make the move you expected anyway. So this is one of the situations where you have to say, okay, to trade that properly, I've got to use the previous stop here, the previous high as a stop, because you know in the back of your mind that, okay, the overall trend is obviously lower, because you have a series of lower highs and then lower lows. So when you look at that, you say, if I've got a test of the previous high and it's going to continue to be a downtrend, then I expect this high to be lower than this one. That's the only way it can continue. So I set my stop off of this, and we say short it here. If you've not been to the free website at perfectstockalert.com, it's right there. It's 100% free, and all we ask in return, please refer a friend. God bless, take care, and I'll see you in the next market analysis video coming up on Monday. Also, enjoy your weekend. Please take a moment to review our disclaimer. The information provided herein is our opinion only. Under no circumstances do any statements here represent a recommendation to buy or sell securities or make any kind of an investment. You are responsible for your own due diligence. To summarize, we do not provide investment advice, nor do we make any claims or promises that any information here will lead to a profit, loss, or any other result. These videos are for educational purposes only.